All right, everybody, welcome back to Hodash Hockey. First of all, I want to apologize for the voice. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. And second of all, I want to apologize for how long it's taken to make this video. The reason for that is honestly just because I have no clue what's going on with this team right now. This is the most bipolar Kings team I've seen in a long time, and it's both fun to watch because the goals are there, and it's very exciting to see this team perform at a very high offensive level. But obviously, the goals against is it's a problem. And I mean, right now we're looking at the games and what the results were, and it's just been a weird season so far. We're 10 games in, 5-5. It's like when you look at some of the games and how terrible the team has played, 5-5 seems great. And then when you also look at, how good the team has been and how good the team should be, 5-5 isn't really acceptable at this level. I there was times where I was going to make this video after the Nashville win. I thought that was a huge win. I thought, 3 in a row, the Kings are looking like themselves. They're showing heart. They're showing dedication. Cal Peterson had a good game. And then, it was just a terrible performance against Pittsburgh. Then I'm thinking, okay, Pittsburgh's a good team. Maybe they're going to bounce back. That's just a one-off. Cal had a bad game. And then the loss to Washington, which was, that was the first real winnable game that they just choked away. But then, you know what? It was like, okay, we play Tampa Bay. I'm very worried. I think that we're going to get creamed. And we win 4-2. And that was probably the best game the Kings have played, despite a terrible first period where they just looked probably the worst they've looked all year was in that first period against Tampa. But they came back. They figured out a way. They reset themselves. They had a dominant two periods to end the game. Huge win. I think, okay, here we go. Winnipeg's coming in. Winnipeg not that good. And then just a terrible loss to Winnipeg, a game that they easily had locked up. They were the much better team, and it's a mix of bad defense, bad goaltending, and I don't know, like just lack of effort that lets Winnipeg win a game that they had no right winning, and the Kings had no right losing. And so then I'm confused again, and obviously Toronto comes in, and the Kings look great. Probably the best complete game the Kings have played. Cal Peterson in the net again. He's had 2 pretty good wins despite being very bad overall. That's kind of the key, obviously, to the problems right now is the goaltending. I know people want to say it's the defense, and I understand it because the defense hasn't been great. My issue with the defense, though, is it's not that they don't know what they're doing. It's not that the system isn't working. The defensive mistakes are just one person making a brain fart and, either reading the wrong play and giving up a breakaway or just losing their man in the D zone. And it's rough. It's tough to watch, but those are mistakes that should be ironed out. And I think we're kind of getting to the point where they aren't making those mistakes as much. That being said, the Toronto game, the shots were 6-0, and then the first shot that Toronto gets is a wide open breakaway for Mitch Marner. So the problems aren't gone yet, and I'm very worried to sound optimistic in this video because they could easily go into St. Louis and just have another stinker like they did against Pittsburgh. But like I was saying, I do think that the defense isn't the biggest issue. It is the goaltending, and it's something I brought up in the season preview where the one area of the team that I just wasn't sold on is the goaltending. I didn't expect it to be this bad. I mean, what we've had right now, not just from Peterson, both Quick and Peterson, and I'm a huge Quick supporter. I will die on any Jonathan Quick hill, but he's letting in goals that he just can't be letting in, and I don't know why. I can understand Peterson. He's been struggling for well over a year now. He's got some kind of mental lapse, but Jonathan Quick's given up very similar, if not worse, goals than Peterson is giving up. And so, yes, the defense is bad, but at the same time, it's the NHL, and teams are gonna get shots, and you have to be able to steal a couple saves. Like, you're going to have breakaways that you're just going to have to come up and make a big save with. Peterson did it last night against Toronto, and it was good. It's why we won, but we're just not getting those saves at all, really. I mean, let's look at the stats right now. 878 for Jonathan Quick, 865 for Kyle Peterson in the save percentage. Both of your goalies having under 900 save percentage is just, it's just so bad. And the fact that the Kings are 5-5 right now solely off of offense is something that I don't think we expected. And I mean, speaking of that, I don't think any of us expected Gabe Vilardi, 7 goals, 4 assists, 11 points. He's over a point per game, got top line time in the Toronto game, which fully deserved. Kevin Fiala, also, by the way, people are kind of trying to make a big deal at, oh, Fiala's not fitting in. Fiala's second on the team with 9 points. Fiala's getting his points, and he's kind of a slow starter anyways, and he's coming into an entirely new team that really plays a completely opposite game that Kevin Fiala plays. Kevin Fiala is a very flashy east-west kind of guy, and the Kings are no flash, north-south only. So it's going to take him time to adjust, but he's been fine. He's done enough for me to not worry about him. I don't want people to start pushing this, oh, we overpaid and look how bad he is narrative already. I think he's doing fine, but I did love seeing Gabe Vilardi on the top line. I think he fits on that line perfectly. Kopi and Kempe, not really like play drivers in the same way that Gabe Vilardi has been this year. And I just think the three of them looked really good together. I think Gabe Vilardi needs to be on the ice more. Like he's legitimately a game breaker right now, with the fact that he's really, I think the biggest thing is mentally. I think he's gotten over a lot of confidence issues. I think being healthy, I think, I'm not sure what happened over the offseason, but he's clearly just a different person mentally. But the kind of physical thing that I've seen is that he's really using his body a lot more. He's always had the hands and the skill, and we've seen that when he's played on the NHL team in years past. Like he makes good little plays. It's just he wasn't getting the puck enough, and I think that's what was kind of messing with him, because I think he knows how skilled he is. He knows what he could do, but he felt like he wasn't getting the chances. But the reason he didn't have the puck as much as he is now is because he wasn't using his body. And this is something that Quinn Byfield, I hope, is watching and kind of takes notes from. But Gabe Vilardi right now is using his giant size, his strength. He's playing like a man right now, and it's allowing him to have the puck on his stick more. It's allowing him to make plays. It's allowing him to get open and get into the net, get those greasy goals, little tip-ins in front of the goaltender. He's just playing so much more confidently, and I think it's because he's really came into his body a lot more, and he's understanding how to use his size to establish puck possession, and then he's always been good when he has the puck on his stick. And we're just seeing the rewards from it. I will 100% admit I was totally wrong on Gabe Vilardi. Going into this year, when people were talking about Gabe Vilardi, I thought there's no shot. Like, you have to give up on him now. And I am so glad I'm wrong, because it has been probably the best part of the season so far has been watching Gabe Vilardi play hockey. He is a phenomenal player, and it's just so nice seeing how different he is just in his emotion and his personality that he's showing on the ice. He's just such a different player. And like I said, that's what I want from QB. I think Quinn Byfield needs to kind of figure out whatever Gabe Vilardi has in the terms of like using his body to allow himself to get time in the puck. So far, Quinn Byfield hasn't played every single game. People are kind of giving him a lot of props. I'm not really seeing it so far. I think Gabe Vilardi playing on his line was a big help to him. But I really think it's a similar issue to what Vilardi had before, where he just doesn't have the puck on his stick enough. And I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know if it's just, he's still a little too weak and he's losing puck battles. That has been happening in the corners a little bit too much. But I think if he can figure out how to get the puck on his stick more, it's going to be a similar thing to Gabe Vilardi, where we're going to start seeing him just start producing points-wise what his, kind of eye test shows. And another guy in the Kings, roster that I really want to learn from Gabe Vilardi is Alex Turcotte, because Gabe Vilardi, it's been, he was drafted in 2017. It's been a long road to get here, and this is his first real NHL season where he's been there from the start and he's been given the green light, and he's a monster. He's, tied for second in the league in goals. With Alex Turcotte, it sucks right now what's happening with him. He has the concussion issues. He's been injured for a lot of time, hasn't really gotten a shot in the NHL. And I just hope that he's watching what Gabe Vilardi's doing right now and continues to have some confidence in himself. That, once he gets through these injury troubles, if he just keeps working and keeps trying, he can be Gabe Vilardi in a year or two. He can come up, finally get a shot, and really show the skills that a 5th overall pick has. He is a very good player. He's just not been able to play. And so I really hope that he's watching this and can kind of mimic Gabe Vilardi in a sense of, putting the past behind him, realizing, hey, you know what? People are going to call me a bust. People are going to forget about me. But as long as I still keep improving, if I still keep working on my game, once I get my shot, I know what I can do with it. If that happens, this team just continues to get better. And then speaking about young guys, we got to talk about Brandt Clarke. Brandt Clarke, he's played 8 games, which is kind of important. He's been scratched 2 times, including last night. If Brandt Clarke plays 10 games, he is officially using a year of his entry-level contract. That's a pretty big deal for young rookies in his scenario. A lot of times, teams will play him for 9 games and then send him back down to juniors. In my opinion, Brandt Clarke cannot go back down to the juniors. He is a very serviceable player right now. The offensive skills that he brings to the team is unmatched by anybody else on the D-core. Sean Durzi, Drew Doughty, he is a level above them offensively. Defensively, is he having some problems? Yeah, but he's a 19-year-old kid, and I'm okay with that because I just feel like if we keep him up here for a year, I think he's going to get better with time. I've already started seeing him, compared to the first couple games to the last game he played, he's a much more confident player. You see him tapping his stick on the ice, asking for pucks all the time. He's making rushes up the ice with the forwards. He's getting more confident, and I just think for his development, he needs to stay in the NHL. Even if he's scratched half the time and you put in Sean Walker sometimes for him, and then he only plays, 40, 50 games this year, he needs to stay in the NHL because the experience that he's gotten so far in 8 games is so beneficial. And if we have to send him down to the OHL, I just think that's a year wasted for him. And he's a guy who, because of the COVID incident, he already had a year wasted, and he hasn't played as much as you probably want someone from 16 to 18 to play. So in my opinion, they have to keep him up. I think that's what they're leaning towards, just because, honestly, he's not been the worst defender on the team, and defense hasn't been good. I don't think if you're Tom McClellan or Rob Blake, you can really argue that he doesn't deserve to play instead of a Sean Walker. So where does that leave us? It's tough. Like I said, this team could go into St. Louis tonight and just be terrible, or they could have a really good game. It's so up in the air. It really just depends on how they're feeling that night. I really don't understand it, but I will say what I've seen offensively from this team is really, really good. And it's what I was excited for and what I was hoping for at the start of the season. You bring in a guy like Kevin Fiala, he's added levels to the power play. Adrian Kempe continues his goal scoring, right? Everyone wanted to say, 35 goals, that's not going to happen again. He's got 6 goals in 10 games. He's keeping up with what he did last year. And of course, like I said, Gabe Vilardi's absolutely exploded. That second line with Deneau, Moore, and Arvidsson. Arvidsson's been kind of trying to get back from the back injury, and it had a little bit of a slow start for him, but that line's really clicking now. The third line really misses Alex Iafallo. And one thing I want to complain about with the Kings is they just do not give any kind of injury news at all. I know I saw Alex Iafallo on crutches in like a locker room video, so I think it's pretty serious. He's on long-term IR, but 5 points in 4 games. Like, Alex Iafallo looked really good, especially playing with Gabe Vilardi and Quentin Byfield on that third line to start the year. Losing him really sucks, but everyone stepped up pretty nicely. The third line's probably the weakest line just because it's kind of always changing. But, the fourth line, I think, has been amazing. Blake Lizotte, Grundstrom, and even Brendan Lemieux. Brendan Lemieux's been really good this year. He's taken a couple penalties. Obviously, 17 penalty minutes, not ideal, but he's drawn more than he's taken. He's added some offense, and you just kind of need a guy like Brendan Lemieux. I know not a lot of people are a big fan of him, but I am of the mindset of, when he's on the other team, you hate him, but when he's on your team, you got to love him. I think that line's been really good. Blake Lizotte looks super good this year. I mean, he always does, but I think he's kind of hitting that next stage in his career. Not so much points wise, but just, face-offs. His face-off numbers are much better. He's playing like a more confident player. And it's been really good. The team offensively has been really no complaints. Every guy's pretty much been doing what they need to do. Defensively, like I said, it's not great, but it's not a total collapse. It's just bad mistakes. I'm going to call out Sean Durzi because Sean Durzi seems to be the one that makes a lot of them. Obviously, Alex Edler hasn't been looking too good, but that's another reason why you need to keep Brandt Clarke in the lineup, to give Alex Edler some games off and play Brandt Clarke instead. But other than that, Mikey Anderson, I think, has looked really good. He had a couple of tough games in the start of the year, but I think he's been a really good player, especially with Drew Doughty. Drew Doughty looks very good as well. Some people may not think it, but he's been making a lot of really good defensive plays. The points aren't there right now, but that's fine. Like the goal scoring isn't an issue. So if he can just focus on defense, that'll be great. Matt Roy, again, started off a little slow. He's looking really good now. It's just, this season's weird, man. This season's weird. It's very fun to watch. Like, every game you go into it not knowing what to expect, but you can pretty much expect the Kings to score a bunch of goals. It's just you're hoping that they're not going to let in a lot. And so with that, I think I'm going to end the video here. This is a lot different. I just kind of rambled for 15 minutes ish. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on the season right now. Again, I'm confused, but overall, I'm happy. I wish that they would win more games. There's at least 2 games that they just should not have lost, in Washington and Winnipeg. If they win those, they're 7-3. That's a monster start for this team. If this is the worst stretch of 10 games that the Kings can have, it's probably going to be a good season for us. I definitely think the Kings are still in it. If they can fix out the little mistakes, they're honestly a great team. It's just little mistakes, which is, it sucks because when they make the mistakes and the other team capitalizes and you lose the game because of it, it's awful. But it's nice to know that there doesn't have to be some huge reworking of the system, and you don't have to go out and change all these things. It's really just smartening up, not making mistakes, making sure that you can pass tape to tape. That's probably the biggest thing that's been annoying me, because it kind of reminds me of like the Willie Desjardins days, where my biggest complaint was just the Kings could not make 2 passes in a row. And there's been times this year where that's happened. Hopefully they iron that out. If they can just get league average goaltending, if they can stop the stupid mistakes on the blue line in the offensive zone and the defensive zone, this team still looks really good. Like, I'm still happy with what I'm seeing. I think that a lot of the predictions that a lot of us fans had at the beginning of the year are coming true. It's just they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot. So yeah, that's kind of it. I want to thank everyone for watching. If you watched this and stuck around, please give it a thumbs up. Comment what you think about this team, because I feel like people are probably very polarized. Either they think this is terrible, or they're kind of happy that we're finally scoring goals. Like, I made it pretty clear, I just like seeing them score goals. I've never seen a Kings team be this lethal offensively in a long time. So thank you, everybody, and hopefully the next video won't be so long and the team can kind of figure it out, go on a little bit of a winning streak. I think that would be nice for the upcoming road trip, and I will see you next time.